My name's Lexi Johnson. I am our professional liability underwriter here at CID Insurance. So I'm very honored and excited to share this new webinar, which is E&O Explained, Coverage, Market Trends, and Who Needs It. So whether you're just starting your journey in writing E&O insurance or you're a seasoned producer with a decade of experience, this webinar was really designed with you in mind and has the guidance that you're looking for. So we're very excited to share this with you today. We also have Alexa Hill, who is our marketing manager. She'll be running everything behind the scenes, addressing any questions that may arise. So let's jump into it. So we're going to start with some webinar logistics, which I believe most of you are familiar with, but if you're new to our webinar, all participants on the webinar will be muted, but your voice is still very important to us. So please type out any questions that you may have in the chat room. We'll stop and answer them throughout the webinar. If we don't have time to address all questions, as I do want to be respectful of your time, we'll make sure to reach out to you personally after the webinar and answer any remaining questions. So what are we going to discuss today? We're going to go over the state of the market in regards to errors and omissions insurance. We're going to expand on E&O coverage and gain more perspective on who needs it. And we're going to understand the key differences between errors and omissions and general liability. We're going to go over some top binding classes, and then we're going to have some Q&A. So let's talk about what is happening now in the errors and omissions marketplace. The market is definitely softening. And what do I mean by that? It's a buyer's market. We are seeing increased competition among our carriers, offering broader coverage options, more favorable terms, and competitive rates, which we are seeing that are stabilizing and reducing. And across all markets, we have seen underwriters becoming more and more flexible and offering more enhancements on E&O policies in general. So just to read some of the statistics, according to a recent press release from HTF Market Intelligence, the global E&O insurance market is projected to grow at approximately 5% annually over the next several years. And E&O insurance is expanding beyond traditional professions as carriers introduce tech-focused and industry-specific policies to address emerging professional service risks. So there is continuous growth riding E&O insurance because professionals will continue to grow and expand. So what does that mean for you as a broker? This soft market and continued growth in the E&O arena can help you win new business. It really is an excellent high demand product to sell and write today. So I encourage you to dive into the E&O industry. If you have an existing book of business, it would be a great time to cross-sell, see what accounts you have on the books that are a true professional, and see if there is an opportunity to write their errors and omissions coverage. Or as I mentioned, if you're a new broker and haven't written E&O before, now is really the time to start. So who needs this coverage? Every professional that performs a service needs E&O coverage. So think about any profession that can cause a client a financial loss of some sort. They need to protect themselves with E&O coverage. And when you're looking at your commercial book, every single account needs E&O if they plan, interact, consult, design, or advise anything between the profession and their client. So these industries listed on the slide are the main ones we see, but keep in mind that within each of these bullets, there are multiple classes that we can quote. I'm not going to provide examples for all of them listed, but to state a few, you have your travel and event industry, which is like an event planner. You have your medical malpractice, which could be a physician or surgeon. Your design industry, which is a graphic or interior designer. Your sales and communication, that could be a marketing consultant. Your career and staffing industry, that could be a recruiter. You have your allied health, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So this would be like a therapist, a medical biller. your communication and information, that could be a media specialist. And then your personal services, that could be a fitness instructor or potentially a beauty professional. So several of these industries are experiencing rapid growth in demand for errors and emissions insurance. And this surge is driven by multiple factors, such as technology advancements in our society today, increasing litigation risks, client demands for proof of coverage, which is a big one. We're seeing a lot more contracts that require errors and emissions insurance to be in place. And then you have your emerging exposures. So, what are really the growing areas that our carriers anticipate to expand in the future and even today? They're actually highlighted in yellow. So, that's our technology industry, real estate, your legal industry, and then also the allied healthcare industry. Okay, so let's better understand the coverage. The big idea here is that E&O isn't just insurance for mistakes. It's really protection for the specialized work professionals do every day. So let's hone down on what exactly is a professional. What defines a professional? A professional is someone who brings special skill, knowledge, training, judgment, and expertise to their work. So it's not just having a job, it's really applying a higher level or care and competence that clients rely on. So some classic examples, this could be an accountant, think tax advice or financial statements that could go wrong, or lawyers missing a deadline or giving bad legal counsel. You have your architects, design flaws that could lead to costly fixes, or your designers. So this could be interior or web where bad recommendations could hurt a client's business. But it really doesn't stop just at the traditional ones. Many others qualify too. So you have, just like us, insurance agents, you have your real estate agents, technology consultants, and so on. And professional services, this is really services performed by the insured, usually for a fee. So it's very straightforward. You're hired to deliver your expertise, and the client pays you for it. Okay, so the legal foundation of errors and emissions coverage. The main driver, I would say the main exposure that we see is negligence. You were hired to do something with an expectation and you didn't do it. And as a result, you caused me financial loss. So that is the most, I would say, the most we see in regards to professional liability claims out there. So I'm just going to go through this slide. It's a professional duty exists, right? You have that higher standard of care because you are a trained professional. Breach of that duty or failure to conform to the standards of that duty by the defendant, so right, negligence. A casual connection between the conduct and resulting injury, so that negligence has to result in injury. There has to be a financial result of that negligence. And then damage resulting to the plaintiff from the act, error, or omission of the defendant. So basically, again, right, the foundation is negligence. The professional is negligent and it caused damage. And we're going to go a little bit more into the legal foundation, and this really nails it. It's a financial loss. It's not a property or a physical loss. That would be the GL, which we'll get into a little bit later. But just to clarify, it's a financial loss. So if the client feels a financial loss could have been avoided, they will allege negligence on the part of the professional. And I wanted to provide just a basic E&O claim. I think, giving claims to your clients is really great. It's very helpful to share, especially when they're relatable to their service or what they do. I think it puts the coverage more into perspective, creates a live picture for them. So I always recommend sharing claim examples. This is just a very basic one. A lawyer misses a critical deadline, resulting in a client's case being dismissed, causing them a financial loss. So the client then sues the attorney for negligence. So we discussed the foundation of an E&O policy, but I want to take some time to discuss general liability. I find there's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion where GL stops and where E&O picks up. So let's take a minute. We're going to talk about general liability. I'm going to help you understand where the differences are. Okay, basic general liability coverage. So you're looking at some of the core of what your basic GL policy is going to cover, which it protects a business against. So this is a policy really that steps in when someone claims your client's business caused them harm and they want to be compensated. So bodily injury and property damage, this is to a third party, and this protects the business when someone is physically hurt or when someone else's property gets damaged. So for example, customer slips and falls on a wet floor in the store, that is a bodily injury claim. Then you have your personal and advertising injury. So this is the non-physical injury coverage. This is going to be things like your libel, your slander, your defamation, your false advertising, your copyright infringement. And then you have your products completed operations. This kicks in when bodily injury or property damage happens away from the business's premise, and it's caused by something the business already sold, handed over, or finished. So something to keep in mind too, not all your GL policies are going to cover the personal and advertising injury and the products completed operation. So that's something to look for. And again, this is just the traditional stuff. This is most likely what your GL policy will cover. So we went over bodily injury, your property damage, your personal injury, your products and completed ops, and then damage to premise rented. Okay, so here's what you want to look at when you have a GL policy. So you could potentially have abuse molestation exclusion, a premise limitation endorsement, a classification limitation endorsement. But what I really want to focus on today is the professional services exclusion. I've seen mostly all GL policies, they exclude professional services. And I'm sure most of you can relate to this. You get a phone call from a business owner and they're asking for the GL and the property. It's always the GL and the property they want first. But I would recommend the first question that you ask is, what are they doing? Because if they are a true professional, obtaining an errors and emissions policy should be the first on their list. Actually, they need to prioritize that coverage. And it happens to me too. I often get submissions where they're only asking for the GL coverage when they have a much greater E&O exposure. So I always go back to our agents and I ask, where's our E&O coverage? We need to quote the E&O coverage. And sometimes it is a financial decision, right? So where they need GL and property maybe for a landlord requirement and they can't afford the E&O coverage. But as I mentioned, if they truly have a professional, if they're a true professional, the average legal defense cost for an E&O claim, it can range 30,000 to over 150,000, and that's even with minor disputes. And that can bankrupt a business. So it is really important for the client, if they are a true professional, to purchase that E&O coverage first. And Alexa, she's going to be posting in the chat a document that you can download for your reference. This is just some recommendations that we put together, suggesting on how to overcome objections with your clients. I'm sure all of us can relate. We've heard, oh, I can't afford it right now. Oh, I don't need that coverage. It's okay. So this document is just meant, it's a great place to start. It's just some ways that you can overcome any objections that you may face with your clients.
Okay, that is now available in the chat. If you just follow the link and then you will be able to download it. We do also have a question. I will go ahead and read it for you, Lexi. It is, how often is E&O combined with GL in the same policy? Is the GL coverage broader if purchased separately?
Thanks, Alexa. Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it really depends on the class of business. E&O and GL can be combined. Typically, I see that for small businesses or small professional firms. Like I would say your small technology firms, an IT service, maybe an accountant or a bookkeeper, maybe a consultant. And typically we can combine the E&O with the BOP, which is a business owner's policy. But typically for your higher exposures, your growing firms, they typically do have separate policies. And yes, packaging coverages, it does create more convenience, maybe more cost savings, but I would say a standalone GL policy is broader, especially if it's with a specialized carrier. Um, they could have more tailored coverage, provide broader coverage, especially for those complex risks. So yeah, I hope that answered everything. If you have any other questions, please post them in the chat, but we're going to continue. So what are the important takeaway differences between E&O and GL? So I'm just going to go over this briefly, but errors and omissions protects you from claims that your professional advice or services caused someone financial harm. So that's a main thing to take away. Your general liability policy is your first line of defense against everyday accidents. So your slips, your falls, your property damage, your reputational harm from ads or statements. But it does not cover professional mistakes, bad advice, or failure to perform services correctly, or financial losses from negligence. So that's where your E&O steps in. And businesses that provide professional services have a greater E&O exposure than GL. And I know we spoke about this earlier, but why is that? It's because professionals, they sell knowledge, they sell recommendations, problem solving. A single error, such as flawed legal advice, inaccurate tax filings, that can result in an E&O claim, which are more frequent and costly in this sector because there's human error and there's misjudgment. And then lastly, if a professional exposure exists, it is important for you as the agent to offer a quote along with the GL to cover your own broker E&O exposure. So it's very important to keep in mind. I want to shift gears. I want to go over some top binding classes, share some insight on classes that our carriers have voiced, are seeing on their end, and binding.
Okay, Lexi, we do have one more question. It is define claims made policy versus an incurrence policy. Which type is more prevalent?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this is a very common question, so thank you for asking this. So your claims made policy, in a nutshell, it's going to cover claims only if both the incident occurs and the claim is filed while the policy is active. And that's different because an occurrence policy, that's going to cover incidents that happened during the policy term, regardless of when the claim is reported. So your E&O policies are always going to be on a claims made basis, and typically your GL policies are going to be on an occurrence policy. Okay, so top binding classes. First, we're going to go over trustees. Now, you may be asking yourself, trustees, why trustees? But yes, trustees have been a growing class. We have multiple competitive carriers that write trustees. And you may ask the question, what triggers someone to get E&O coverage if they're a part of a trust? What is the selling point? So the policy form for trustees was created to cover the trustee for their services. So think about the trust document. That really is a key component for the risk. One good reason for a trustee to get coverage is for any claims that would come in from other trustees or family members. Most of the time, trustees will have claims due to someone challenging how the trustee is managing and handling the trust. And these policies are typically low average cost. You'll see some coverage enhancements listed on the slide and also some of our target classes. So we have your living trust, beneficiary trust, family trust, charitable trust, pooled trust, special needs trust, and then your estate guardianship agreements. Next, I really want to go into allied health and medical related. So really, what is allied health or allied health care? Allied healthcare is a very broad term. I have it listed on the slide, but for most allied healthcare insurance programs, the focus is primarily on standalone, non-hospital owned, operated facilities that provide a range of specific types of services to their clients. So really, it encompasses several types of healthcare services as well as medical professionals. Allied health professionals, they really provide services that involve direct or indirect patient care, advice, treatment, diagnostics, or therapy. And then many allied health professionals, they work in diverse settings, hospitals, clinics, homes, schools, etc. So now the selling stats, I'm just going to go over this briefly, but this is what makes this space so exciting. So firstly, the global medical professional liability insurance market is forecasted to explode to $33.7 billion by 2031. That's tremendous growth and creates strong sales potential for insurance. And then secondly, allied health professionals, they make up over 60% of the US healthcare workforce and are projected to grow by 13% over the next decade. And that's huge, right? A fast-growing pool of professionals who are going to need E&O insurance. So really healthcare is one of the fastest growing industries in the US, which leads to your startup companies in the allied health space in need of insurance. So there's really a lot of opportunity here. I put some of our target classes on the right-hand side. I just want to mention if you're brand new to writing allied healthcare, you've never written it before, a great place to start is your physical, your occupational, your speech therapy clinics, or your medical staffing. So the reason I mention that is just more of a controlled setting with lower severity. And then we're going to move on to our architects and engineers. This slide really captures why A&E professional liability is such an exciting space right now. So first, right, the selling stats, the market is being driven by increased project complexity. So think larger, more intricate builds, plus emerging risks like AI and design tools, climate change impacts on structures, and the booming demands for specialized green building credentials. When we think about innovation, it brings new exposures. So that's exactly where we come in, providing the coverage they need to protect against errors in this evolving area. So here's our target classes. These are really the sweet spots where we can win business quickly. And then if you're new to writing E&O for architects and engineers, again, I would recommend starting out with land surveyors or civil engineers. Especially those focused more on your lower hazard, your non-structural work like site planning. You'll just have more market support, claim severity tends to be lower, and it's just a little bit simpler underwriting. And moving on, thinking like an underwriter, this is really, what to look for when you're reviewing an application. You always want to provide the most information, details as you can. So here are some questions on the application that you can gather upfront from your client. From an underwriting perspective, the most crucial piece of information is really the description of operations. Consultant is not enough. Like we need details. What is their day-to-day operations? What services are they providing? It's really important to ask. What does the insured want coverage for? Especially nowadays, sometimes you have one person doing multiple things. So really nailing exactly what they want coverage for makes the underwriting process much more seamless. And then we're going to move on to the next slide. I am here to help. Please reach out to me, give me a call, send me an email with any questions that you may have. Even if you have a risk and you're not sure where to go with it, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. This is really a short list of target classes we write, but we can pretty much write anything that you may have. And really exciting news, we recently obtained a new market for any medical risks. So any telemedicine, dentists, surgeons, we can do it. So please send it our way. Alexa will be posting in the chat our target classes for you to download. So please reference that. Also, I just want to mention I write our employment practices liability and cyber liability accounts. So I can help you write several coverages for one account. And we actually have a cyber and EPL platform where you can actually quote yourself and any risk in 3 to 5 minutes. And it's really user friendly. So if you have any questions about that, please reach out to me. And we want to thank you so much for your time and participation. I know we went a little bit over, so thank you for your patience. Please start submitting your E&O risks to submissions at cidinsurance.com. You do not need an appointment with CID Insurance to submit business. And please feel free to reach out to me to ask about specific risks, coverage details, or anything from the session. My email and phone number are listed, and our website is cidinsurance.com, where we have all our recorded webinars and broker tools designed for you. So thank you so much again for your time. I look forward to doing business with you, and I hope you have a great day.